Back to politics now, and more signs that the Democrats are willing to cede some ground to Republicans, and that's angering progressives. The Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid now says he will consider extending the Bush-era tax cuts for everyone, even though he doesn't like the idea. And Democrats have long said that the cuts should be expiring for the wealthiest Americans. So you've got the GOP delaying that meeting with the president, citing scheduling conflicts. You have progressives accusing the White House of caving to the Republicans. What's next? Here with me, Ari Berman, who is contributing writer for The Nation, and the company, Susan Molinari and Mo Elleithee, are still here. Ari, let me start with you. I guess, you know, there's sometimes a fine line between compromise and caving and the perception thereof. So when you hear the president or Harry Reid say they're going to work with the Republicans, they will consider extending tax cuts for the rich, which do you think it is?
Well, this certainly seems to me like caving. This was an issue where a majority of Americans wanted those tax cuts for the wealthy to expire. But instead, what it seems like is they didn't schedule a vote on it when they had the majority in Congress. Democrats didn't schedule that vote. They left without dealing with this issue, and now they're boxed in by the Republicans. They could schedule a vote right now just on extending the middle tax breaks and not for the wealthy, but they don't seem willing to do that. They just seem willing to give basically the GOP whatever they want, and I don't think that's compromise. I think that is caving.
Yeah, Mo, do you see it as compromise or caving? What I'm hearing from some Democrats I've talked to this week is, look, we seem to forget that we're still in the majority here. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the White House. You know, why are we ceding this to them? What do you think?
Again, I mean, I think it is compromise. I think that's what people want. I think there's a way, and I think what we'll see over the next couple of years is the president extending his hand, working with the Republican leadership in the Congress, while staying true to core values. That's I think what people are looking for. I think, again, we're seeing the exact opposite from some of the Republican leadership that is sort of digging in their heels now on some of their more ideological positions, when that's not what the American people want. They want to see both sides actually come together and find the middle ground.
You know, it's interesting. There's a new Quinnipiac poll. It says only 35% of voters say tax cuts should be extended for everyone. So they can't argue that either side can't argue that they're doing it because they think that's what the American people want. But look, you were a compromiser. You often reached over the other side when you were in Congress, Susan. How tough is it to do in this political environment? And what do you see happening here?
Well, I do think that what we're going to see is hopefully at the lame duck that the Democrats are going to vote for tax cuts for everybody. I think it is a larger issue at this point in terms of the economic stimulation that we need to create jobs. I think that is a focus that brings everybody together. And if we don't compromise on that, I don't know what we're going to compromise on. But, you know, look, the president's former OMB director, I think over 60 members of Democrats had suggested that they wanted those tax cuts to go to the higher income Americans, a lot of whom are the creators of the small businesses and the people who are going to create the jobs if they start to feel some settling here in terms of what the philosophies are going to be here in Washington, D.C. So I do agree with the Republicans. I don't think this is a time to compromise on ceding tax cuts to anybody, particularly in this economic environment.
All right, Ari, let me ask you really quick, because I had a chance to talk to the company earlier about this perception that the Republicans are dissing the president by postponing this meeting with him. How do you see this? Is it just a scheduling conflict?
I'm not really sure exactly the backstory to it, but I mean, we just heard the Congresswoman say that there's not going to be a compromise on this. So by definition, if she's saying there's not going to be a compromise, then there can't be a compromise. And if Republicans are getting everything they want out of this and Democrats are giving up a core campaign platform, a core issue they ran on, then clearly they're caving on this issue. I don't see how Democrats can spin this any other way.
All right. Ari Berman, Susan Molinari, Mo Elleithee, thanks to all of you. And again, we are watching what's going on here. There's a meeting going on for the House leadership, and there will be a vote. And there's the picture just across the rotunda from me. We'll keep you posted on what's going on as soon as we find out. Meantime, 9 years after investigators found Chandra Levy's body in a Washington, D.C. park. Back to politics now.